Hello, this is Robert Kroll. This video is actually an audio production for a presentation that I did for St. Clair County Community College's Free College Day event in March of 2015. My presentation was about the Mercury Theater's infamous broadcast of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on October 30th, 1938. The presentation itself was a rather basic one that was just meant to introduce people to the broadcast and the aesthetic employed by the Mercury Theater. I played selected parts of the original broadcast that I thought were relevant to understanding how the broadcast could inspire nationwide panic. Probably the most effective part of the presentation, and the one that I was most proud of, was when I simulated changing the radio station from one program and coming into the War of the Worlds broadcast with no context. One of the most popular shows on at the time was the Chase and Sanborn Hour on NBC, which popularly featured Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. Part of the reason people would have panicked upon hearing the War of the Worlds broadcast would have been because they tuned into CBS, the station that carried the Mercury Theater, and heard foreboding announcers and screaming people who became victims of the Martian attack without any sort of context that it was just a production. The Mercury Theater did not have a sponsorship or product endorsement at the time, so the one and only commercial break in the program didn't come until nearly 40 minutes into its broadcast. Chase and Sanborn, however, had a commercial break nearly 20 minutes into their broadcast that was happening at the same time as War of the Worlds. So with recordings of both broadcasts freely available on the internet, I decided to find out what it would have been like to drop in on the War of the Worlds broadcast when the Chase and Sanborn Hour went on its first commercial break. I downloaded both episodes, put them on Audacity, and hit play on both simultaneously with War of the Worlds muted. When the first commercial break came, I switched from Chase and Sanborn to Mercury. I was stunned by the spot I happened upon. Toward the end of the War of the Worlds segment, you'll hear Orson Welles, in character here as Professor Pearson, describe the Martian's heat ray, which is almost word for word from the start of Chapter 6 of the War of the Worlds novel. So the audio that is about to play is what it might have been like to switch from the Chase and Sanborn Hour, featuring the song Two Sleepy People sung by Dorothy Lamour, to Mercury Theater on the night of October 30th, 1938. You will hear a little radio static in the middle to signify the change in station. So sit back, and to quote Wells, remember the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch. And if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween.
Drowsy little days, two sleepy people by dawn's early light, and too much in love to say goodnight. Good night, honey.
If you love fun and excitement, you'll want to hear about Charlie McCarthy's new radio game.
Yes, you'll get laughs and thrills by the minute when you play Charlie's new radio game. Many of your friends and neighbors are already enjoying it.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. It's all too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that in some way they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of the heat ray.